Tripod, the official Trinity University Press podcast, invites authors, journalists, community leaders, and other guests to engage in exploratory, informative discussions on the subjects of people, places, and the planet. I'm Lily Brennan, and welcome back to another episode of Tripod, the official podcast of the Trinity University Press. Joining me today is Vincent T. Davis, Air Force veteran, seasoned journalist of the San Antonio Express-News, and author of The Front Porch, Stories from the Soul of San Antonio. Davis is here today to discuss the art of finding the extraordinary in ordinary lives and the importance of storytelling to cultural and human legacy. Welcome, Vincent T. Davis.
Thank you, Lily. I really appreciate you having me.
Besides what I've already learned about you from your book and the brief conversation we have, do you want to give an introduction to yourself?
Sure. So I'm originally from Columbus, Georgia.
Okay, nice.
I was born there on August 3rd, 1957, raised by my great-grandparents, grandmother and mother. My father was in the Air Force. Mm-hmm. So we traveled from Georgia to South Dakota, Germany, San Antonio. Wow. And our final stop was Omaha, Nebraska, which was a shock of sorts.
Definitely.
With the weather and everything.
Yeah.
And that's where I enlisted into the Air Force in 1975. Then I was stationed overseas in Germany for 2 years, 5 years at Lackland, where here in San Antonio, where I met my wife.
Nice.
At a disco, which is a story in the book.
Yes. And
then we ended up 3.5 years in Italy, which was amazing.
Yeah.
It was perfect for us, newlyweds. And that's where our daughter was born. And then we ended up in Denver for 4 years, back to Germany. And then we ended up at Tinker Air Force Base in Oklahoma. We lived out in Norman, out by OU. It was really nice. And then we decided we wanted to find some place to retire, right? So we thought of maybe staying in Oklahoma or going to Omaha. San Antonio won without, all the pros.
I know we're biased, but that seems like a good option out of those.
It does. I mean, the weather kind of knocked out Omaha. But the other part was my wife's parents lived here. We were familiar with San Antonio. It just seemed like the good place to raise our daughter, who was going to high school.
Right.
So that's what we did in 1997. I retired and we relocated here.
Yeah. Well, and then you made it to the San Antonio Express-News. I mean, definitely not via a traditional route. Do you want to tell a bit how you came to that decision?
Well, I like to tell people the reason that I'm talking to them as a journalist is because of a white index card on a corkboard at San Antonio College. I went to San Antonio College on the GI Bill, but I wasn't studying journalism. I was studying to become a graphic designer. It was the second or third week in September of 1997. It's the last class of the day. Mm-hmm. And I'm going home. I can see my car. I'm like, okay, I'm out.
I'm done.
Right? And so as I walk out, I take a right, and there's a corkboard. And there's a white index card, and on it said wanted editorial cartoonist. And, I was learning, I was illustrating and illustrating. I was like, okay. So I looked at it. I said, let me call my wife and ask her. I didn't have a cell phone back in those days. Mm-hmm. Went to the payphone, called her.
Nice.
And I said, hey, there's this ad. They're looking for editorial cartoonists. You think I should go check it out? She said, why not? She said, what can you lose? So I called them, made the appointment. An hour later, I'm in the office of the chair, Chet Hunt, the chair of the journalism photography department. And he goes through my portfolio of illustrations. And he says, well, it's not really what we're looking for, but we can teach you, we can train you.
Yeah.
And he put me to work that night.
Wow.
So I had to learn how to use a Mac. And while we're learning all these different things, and they were showing us how to, take a concept and illustrate it, or political view or whatever. All the students, my classmates, were like, it was just like a buzzsaw of activity.
Yeah.
They're running in and out, trying to meet deadlines and things like that. So I got caught up in it.
Yeah.
They had all of us write editorials, And I kind of like that, I had taken writing courses over the years, but never really thought anything seriously about it. So at the end of that semester, I was walking out, getting ready to go off, winter break.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the instructors, she stopped me. And she said, "Hey, we'll see you again in January, right?" And I'm like, "I can come back?" She said, "Yeah, we want you to come back."
Please.
And I didn't know
how
that worked. So I came back, signed up for a course in January, and started taking intro to journalism classes.
Mm-hmm.
And that led me to become a member of the Society of Professional Journalists student chapter.
Okay.
And from there, we helped out with the SPJ regional, and that's where we met Kim Fox, who was my mentor.
Yeah.
And she sat down with us at the end of the day. We were helping them at this conference. And she sat down with myself and a gentleman named Chris Quinn and Ben Olivo,
mm-hmm.
who are still in journalism to this day. And she asked us what we wanted to do. And so we told her what our interests were.
Mm-hmm.
And she said, okay. She gave us her card. And she said, "Hey, come see me next week." And we did
mm-hmm.
that Monday. And she offered us temporary positions as editorial assistants, where we answered the phone. We made, photo assignments. We had to take care of the company Jeep. We had to go and get the editors, their food and their
mm-hmm.
coffee and dinner and
of course.
stuff. But it was great training.
Yeah.
It was great. And we were right there at the nerve center of the Metro desk, where we could hear about all the assignments, the breaking news and everything like that. And I wouldn't trade it. It was the greatest training ground besides the Air Force that I ever had.
Yeah, it sounds like it. Enjoying this episode with Vincent Davis? Check out their book, The Front Porch, Stories from the Soul of San Antonio, now available for purchase on the Trinity University Press website and anywhere you buy books. Use Tripod's discount code, PORCH, to save 20% on your purchase of The Front Porch at tupress.org. Do you think that the way you came into journalism and kind of being, doubtful about whether or not you were going to be into it, do you think that helped your career throughout, from the start to now? Or do you think it was more of an obstacle to overcome of like how you came into journalism?
I think it was beneficial.
Yeah.
Because it was like every day was just this grand learning curve. I would go out. I remember the first time that they gave me a story to write, and it took me, I just struggled over it. I didn't know how to condense information or, try to, like a record, have a hook in a record, and it just, or how to, grab the reader
mm-hmm.
from the jump. I remember that day, it was a Sunday, and it was about a Russian immigrant who had never been able to celebrate his faith. It was the first time that he ever was able to light a menorah. I remember that because my editor, she let me kind of flail about for 3 hours.
Yep.
And she said, okay. And she pulled me beside her. She said, sit up here, come sit beside me. And then she said, tell me what happened. And that's when she said the opening for the first time in X number of years, Israel lit a menorah for the first time. And she got all of that from what I had told her. And I just looked at her like, whatever. And so over time, they would throw you into like, the deep end of the pool. And they'd be like, hey, there's a shooting over at so-and-so. I want you to go out and cover it. And I had made my second story that they gave me. And all the way there, I'm praying, I hope it's nothing.
Right.
So he said, editor says, call me back. Let me know what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
And then what I would do would dictate to him. That continued, to send me out on stuff. Or go out with a police reporter, get tips and clues from them on how to write a story. It was a fast time.
Mm-hmm.
You just learn on the go.
It's kind of the only way to do it, I feel like.
It was. And I think that if I had time to stop and think, I wouldn't be here right now.
Yeah. Well, I feel like coming to it, not having gone to journalism school
mm-hmm.
or, writing all the time, it gives you some humility for sure.
Yes.
And not being like, oh, I know exactly how to do this and that. And I think that definitely bleeds into the way a journalist interviews somebody. Because if you're coming at it from like, if you're already thinking about how you're going to edit it and write it before somebody answers you,
right?
You can tell that about somebody's conversation. So I could definitely see that being an advantage. But
Yeah, and I think another part that helped me or that made me feel comfortable was having gone through just dozens of communication classes in the Air Force.
Yeah, I'm a comm major, so.
So
Yeah.
these things I think kind of kicked in like when you're talking to a person to remove obstacles of communication. If you're talking to a child, not to tower over them, but to then come down to their level,
right.
And these things may seem like simple elementary things, but they really, I think, help put someone at ease, I hope. But the biggest thing that I learned as a journalist was to listen. It took a while, but it's also what we learned in the Air Force too. If you're sitting down talking to someone, not to try and fill that awkward void.
Yeah. But I think taking that approach, you get maybe more invested than others might have. And with such a long career that you've had, how were you able to select the stories that you put in? Because I feel like if you're coming at it, really getting to know these people and selecting these stories,
right.
How did you go through that process? Or were there certain things you were looking for in the pieces that you chose?
It was a pretty arduous task.
Yeah.
Because 1999 to now, and even now after the book came out, after it was sent away and I was talking to the editors and the team, I was thinking, I should have put...
Oh, yeah.
You do this
second-guessing
still every day. I still kind of like, I should have put so-and-so in. But I hope that readers will see a mix
definitely
of the type of stories and type of folks that we met along the way. So what I tried to do was start from the beginning of my career and just kind of pick 2 or 3 along the way, and also maybe put them in certain categories.
Yes,
like the barbershop story. That's my weakness. Is I have to admit. I grew up. One of my first memories of my great grandfather was in a barbershop. He was a World War II veteran, and he had taught us early. He wasn't like a very loud man. Demonstrative. He had a quiet way about him. I won't say it was like Clint Eastwood, but it was like that type of delivery. And he taught me at an early age to, if I think about it, how to sit there and try to be like a fly in the wall.
Yeah, observer.
As a kid, just like, and I remember seeing all the different characters at the barbershop. His fellow veterans, the skeptic, a conspiracy theorist, all those guys are there, the reverend.
But it does invoke such an image. So I think that's a great story to include.
I think there's 5 or 6 in there. But I can recall sitting there with him and just taking it all in, not understanding what they're talking about really. You're 4 or 5 years old. But then over the years going with my father, also on military bases, it was the same thing. And then coming to San Antonio was really like the mother lode because we ran across a man named Mr. White who had a barbershop on Commerce Street. And he's the one that kind of gave me a background on the east side, how it used to be back in the 40s, in the 50s and the 60s and the 70s, which also helped me out later when I would run across other people and I would know what they would be talking about because of what Mr. White had shared with us.
Do you have a favorite story, or was there one that really you were like, that has to be in there? I think picking your favorite would be impossible.
It is.
I don't know if there's any that like jump out at you as something that you were like, okay, that's definitely going in.
It's funny, I was talking to one of my former co-workers, photojournalist Lisa Krantz, and she had texted me the other day and she found out about the book. And she said, is the squirrel guy going to be in there?
The squirrel guy?
I don't know if you, so there was...
I think that definitely sounds right. At
Travis
the park?
Yeah. So this is one of the, there was a time period where we did street stories. I know people will be like, some people were like, that's not journalism. I'm like, yeah, it is.
I feel like that's like the core of what it is.
It's the core, exactly. And it wasn't hard. People think you're just kind of goofing around. You're not. One day we said, let's just go walk downtown, see what we find. And we were walking towards Travis Park. We saw this young couple, and they were looking at this guy. And so we were like looking at the couple. And we're like, what are they looking at? And there was this older gentleman, and he's got a paper plate of cake, with a plug of cake on it. And he's holding it up to the tree. And they're looking up, and we're looking at them look up, and we're like, what is he doing? And then...
making an offering.
Right? Like, what are we doing? Is there something that we're going on we don't know about? And so all of a sudden, you hear the leaves, the branches are rustling, and you're like, what the heck is going on? And the squirrel comes corkscrewing around the tree, like a snake, like, like kind of just, coming down. And he holds it up and he doesn't move it. And the squirrel starts nibbling on the cake. And he just keeps lowering it down and the squirrel follows him down. And we're like, what have we found here,
Yeah.
But the thing about it, it was a window into the world of what goes on at Travis Park. Mm-hmm. And he wasn't the only one that was feeding the animals. Mm-hmm. There's another gentleman, I think he was from New Orleans, if I'm not mistaken, who was, didn't have a home. He was living on the street. He was doing the same thing. Mm-hmm. But then it also opened up a bigger picture where we could actually capture what was going on at that time as they were doing that, about the struggles that some people were having and how they cared for each other, how there was a gentleman who was probably himself not doing very well and had an injured leg, pushing a friend in a wheelchair. Yeah. And there was a fight that broke out there, and the police responded to that. But then there was also that part of, I think, that thread that runs through San Antonio, through the Front Porch.
Yeah.
Is that there were people there, 3 or 4 cars, unloading food and feeding the folks in the park. So it's not just, and it was without fanfare. And I think throughout the whole book, you'll find that there are people who are doing things and they're on social media now seeing what they're going to do. They just go out and do it because they think it's the right thing to do.
Absolutely. I think in a different way, this podcast and Tripod is, their tagline is People, Places, Planet. Uh-huh. So trying to take, an author's book, or I have interviewed like professors or other people coming in talking about a very specific thing to them, kind of like the man holding the cake up the scroll, one very small part, and then blowing it up to what is that whole place involved in that, or what are all the people in that community doing as part of that place, and how does that contribute globally or to the planet?
Right.
Kind of the aim of this, and in that way I kind of want to ask some questions about the people component, the people-related messages of the book. Your pieces in the story are described as finding the extraordinary in ordinary lives. How do you go about doing that as a journalist? Like, what kind of questions are you asking, or what are you looking for, and how do you think others can seek out those things in their life? Trinity University Press is a mission-driven publisher committed to civic engagement with timely ideas facilitated by the publication of print and digital books, related media, creative and educational programs, and other activities that help us all better understand our place in a crowded world. For more than 50 years, Trinity University Press has published more than 225 titles and organized thousands of events, all focused on broadening our understanding of many impactful subjects, from human relationships with our physical environments to social equity and justice. For more information about Trinity University Press, visit tupress.org.
I wish I had a really nice boilerplate answer for you, but I think that going out, well, even on the assignments, even on the stories that we were assigned to do, like maybe event type stories, you would hear things from people who were doing things. They thought it was just ordinary, but you can see it. I remember a colleague I was working with, we were on night cops. And so we're just driving around, and we were driving near downtown, near Bear County Jail. And we had parked just for a minute because it was cold, and we're like, I think we had some coffee. We're just taking a break.
Take a break.
And we see this truck pull up, and it's an older gentleman with a little boy about 12 and his sister and her boyfriend. And they get out and they go to the bed of the truck, and they start pulling out blankets and the coats, and they start handing them out to people on the street. And that was generated by the little boy watching the 10 o'clock news and hearing about how people living on the street were freezing and didn't have, shelter. And he asked his father, hey, can't we do something? At that point, they grabbed his sister and her boyfriend. Yeah,
and they do something.
And they went out, and they were out there. They didn't have to do that. To me, they didn't say anything big about it. Yeah. And of course, being journalists, we're like, can we do a story? He's like, they said, no, we don't want any notice or any publicity about it. Just something that we did. And that's what we should do. And you see throughout the book, there's instances of that.
Yeah.
I think a big part of that is the curiosity part. Driving, you're driving, we drive past these stories every day.
Right.
you can stop and check that out.
Is that sort of your motivation as well for putting this book together? Are you hoping to motivate people to engage in that same way with their surroundings, or is it more to share the stories that you've found of the cultural legacy?
I think to share, because, this is a great opportunity.
Yeah.
I didn't see it coming. I mean, 2 years ago when I was contacted by Trinity University Press in Bergen Street.
Bergen Streetman, yeah.
Yeah. And I looked at that email like, what is this?
Yeah.
You
sure you're talking to the right guy?
Right.
Yeah.
And to this day, I wish I had an answer of who recommended me or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't know. But I just know that Bergen and Tom were great, and the marketing team here has been great. But I just think that, the stories here, like I say, just is a small segment of the folks that live in and around San Antonio that we pass by every day.
Yeah.
People who maybe don't have a voice or live on the margins. And hopefully by sharing the book, maybe somebody who may be going through the same situation, or maybe they can find some motivation or inspiration or hope from somebody else's story.
After I was reading it, I felt definitely, reassured that people are out there doing these things in just their ordinary life. And it does feel extraordinary to others who aren't doing that.
Right.
So I think that goal is met. But I also think, as you were saying, getting these stories from maybe people who don't have the opportunity to share what they're doing on a more broad scale. A lot of those voices you spoke with were from elderly members of the community, just doing this, either doing the same work they've done their whole life or giving back to the community. I know in a certain lens, some people might say that that's a result of the economic situation, that these people just still have to work. Why won't they retire? Blah, blah, blah. But in the way that you're looking at it, it seems like it's from a place of passion. I don't know if you have any thoughts on that.
I think being raised by folks of the greatest generation has always resonated with me and stuck with me. I probably have a special place in my heart for folks, that are in my great-grandparents' generation. But Miss Griffin was someone I met years ago, and her passion for advocating for older residents of San Antonio and Texas was just unsurpassed.
Yeah.
It was something that she lived every day. When she had the senior center named after her, it was really deserved. She deserved that. I can actually say that I've seen her and her daughter Joey just delivering groceries to these folks and letting them know they weren't forgotten. Not only that, but on holidays, taking them Valentine's Day cards and things like this, just watching her work. That was Miss Griffin. And she never changed. Even in her last years, she was still, don't forget about your elders or your seniors,
That story inspired the question I just asked. But on a personal note, that story also reminded me very much of my grandmother, who it'll be a year since she passed this February from Alzheimer's. But the stories reminded me of the fact that some people at their core are caregivers, or those that care for others. And she was a nurse her whole life.
Okay.
And did hospice care later on in her life as well. But even when she was in nursing homes and, forgetting things and stuff, you'd always come in and she would be nursing, like taking care of somebody who needed help, like moving their wheelchair or asking that, oh, they're cold, they need a blanket. And if you would go up to her, she'd be like, give me 1 minute, I'm with a patient. Like, just at her core was a nurse, a caregiver. And I think that certainly comes through in these stories. This is not work to these people. It's a passion. It's a love of their life to do these things. But I think some other values that come through are also just the value of family, people speaking about their family members or doing something for their family, as well as community. Was that an important value to highlight?
Yes. Because I think that sometimes we hear about different demographics, and different, like adults, children, and everything, and their stereotypes. But we were very fortunate to find like the father and daughter who went out each week in Woodlawn Lake. When we ran across them, the sun was going down, and we had been out looking for a story for like 4 or 5 hours. And there they were sitting on, the platform. And we, ran over there. And we just talked about why they were out there and then described what was going on around them. And it was that golden time of day where the sun, the golden rays of the sun were just kind of rippling on the water. So yeah, I just think those little small moments between mother and daughter, mother and son, or whoever, I think maybe people go like, oh, okay, it's not, we're not all at each other's throats.
Yeah.
You
got to remember the elders, and also to connect, have those moments with family and things like that. I think those values certainly come through, and especially when you talk about your own family. How did it feel to kind of write those stories of your family and include those?
It started because I had a friend, she's like, you're a columnist, right? I'm like, yeah. She said, why don't you write columns? They're not personal, they're stories. She said, you're still, she's like, you're not writing anything about yourself. We will know about you too. She said, you go out and you have these people pour their souls and their hearts out to you. She said, you should do the same. I was like, huh.
Practice what you preach.
Right? Yeah. Exactly. And she was right. And so when I was mining that material, it was almost an extension of the stories here in San Antonio, because those same values that I found and discovered in people around San Antonio, they lived in my family. My great-grandfather was the ultimate storyteller in our family. Cigar, chingos in his mouth, peeling the orange, shirt off, T-shirt, socks, shoes off, in his easy chair. And he rear back and go to town, tell the story. And then, when he tells stories, he'd be like, the family would be rolling their eyes. They're like, that's not true. Yes, it is. I saw it.
I swear.
And as a kid, you're like, you're listening.
Yeah.
But he would tell these stories. They would bring tears to your eyes, and you'd be like doubled over and just laughter, So when I started thinking about, sharing who he was, his effect on me, and the fact that I'm able to tell stories and make a living from it, Lily, he would have been like,
no way.
No way. He would have been like, no way, guy. But I think he would have got a kick out of it. And then talked about my great-grandmother and how she was like, the world is black and white.
It's good and bad.
That's it. And there was never in between. Those lessons and the things that she say still kick in, because you can't, you have to be true to yourself in these instances. None of them are hard to write. It's just sharing, like my mother. She's the one who motivated me to read. I was taught by the Catholic nuns.
Nice. Yep.
Oh, yeah.
So's my dad.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. And I could read. As a young age, I could read. But the thing about that, and it continued throughout my life, was the fact that how proud my great-grandmother was of me and my sisters, like when we learned to read. And she would gather the other older women in the apartment complex, and she would just put me in the center of them, and they circle around me. And you read your little gold reader, or whatever it was, and they would be like, oh, that memory still stays with me, because these are women who never had a chance to go to school, but they were proud, and it just made their hearts swell. Being able to be a journalist is also a nod to them, to my great-grandmother and those women.
In asking about the experience of writing about your family for this book, I think it definitely makes sense that they are really entertaining, but also prime examples of what you're trying to show, of what journalism does, and how the extraordinary in the ordinary life. That in of itself, of just you standing in a room and sharing a story, you take a broader look at it, and it's really a testament to educating younger generations and passing on storytelling. So that was my last question, but thank you so much for making the time today and answering everything. It was a pleasure.
Thank you for joining Vincent and I for another episode of exploring people, places, and our planet with Tripod. Come back soon!